What's up, you guys? Steven here for Off Shelf Movie Night to talk to you about physical media, about Blu-rays, 4Ks, and yes, DVDs. I picked up some DVDs this week. I'm happy to share those with you and go over why I did that, because you know I'm not the hugest DVD purchaser these days. Anyway, if you like physical media, if you're a collector or you want to be a collector, please join the conversation. Let's talk about it in the comments below. I'm excited to have those conversations. That's the reason this channel exists. So, if you've been following this show for a while, you may have seen the video of my flip pile. If I don't like a movie or I upgrade a movie, that copy goes. I don't have any time or space for things that I don't like in my library. Not that kind of collector. So I had a pretty significant pile, 2/3 of which were things that weren't really eBay or Mercari quality type of stuff that's worth selling online and shipping. So I packed all that stuff up and went to McKay's, my local used media shop, and flipped it for some credit. Got more credit than anticipated and did some shopping. If you want to see that actual trip, you want to see that out and about, you want to see me perusing McKay's, you want to see what the inside looks like and the shopping experience, please follow me over on TikTok. I'm posting those kind of videos over there now because it's just so easy to pull a phone out and shoot it, and a lot of times it's not a 10 or 15 minute long type of thing, so it's just better on that platform. My username over there is OTS Movies, and we're having conversation over there too. So if you want to join that kind of stuff, please follow me. I would love to have you over there too. Anyway, so here's what I picked up. Let's go through this. And, you know, before I get into it, I know some of you guys are going to be like, well, that's expensive. And yeah, it kind of, for used, I agree with you. Some of this stuff is kind of expensive for used. But this is store credit. You know, this is not money out of my pocket. So I kind of conceded a little bit. But I don't thrift store shop. I don't Dollar Tree shop. So I'm kind of used to spending a little bit more money to begin with. But I got things that I know I'm going to watch over and over again, and I'm excited to have them in my collection. So let's go through it. First up is The Invisible Man. This is a movie that should have been bad, and had it been anybody but, well, I'm not going to say anybody, but the movie was made better and made good by Angela Moss. She's so good in this film. She sells it. She sells the fear. She sells the action, she sells the drama, everything here. She's such a good actor, and I know we're going to see her doing a lot more really cool stuff moving forward. Also, guys, by the way, I got slipcovers. You know, I don't buy a movie necessarily because of the slipcover, but they look good on the shelf, so when I do get them, I'm happy to have them, and this is pretty cool. I got the slipcover. Because I don't think these movies, if you buy them new, have slips now. Anyway, but I do have to deal with this, which is really, you know, something I hate to do. But yeah, let me know if you've seen this movie, if you like it. This movie, it just works on this sort of smaller character way until the last handful of minutes, the last act, when there's some really, really terrible CGI. And that could have actually destroyed the movie, but she's just so good it makes it worth revisiting. Next up is something that I missed on sale. And I think it was about this same price new before Christmas. It may have even been a little cheaper than this new, to be honest. And there's 2 films in here that has happened to me. But again, store credit. So, and that is Beetlejuice on 4K. I hear that this is a beautiful transfer. Can't wait to visit it. I'm showing you guys everything because it's what we do, but these studio titles, they really almost never give you anything other than that basic artwork on the front, unless it's a steelbook. But yeah, I hear this is a beautiful transfer. I didn't have this in my collection already in any other format, and it's a classic. I want to add this to my Halloween 31 Days of Halloween viewing next year. I'll watch it before that. I'm excited to see if there's any decent extras on here. I don't know. So I'll be looking at it before that, but it's definitely going in that rotation. All right, here's another one that I kind of skipped on new. I thought the price was a little bit high for me, and I figured I would just find it used somewhere. I would like to have had a better price than this, but it is what it is, and that's The Suicide Squad. Obviously, the first film in this franchise was awful, but this one's really entertaining and fun. It was directed by James Gunn, who brings us good movies. He brings us some good movies. Slither is a classic. The first Guardians of the Galaxy, also a classic. The second one, it's all right. But this is great. This is, if not the best, it's one of the best DC films, live action films out there. It's right there in the top. Tons of fun. It's a smarter 2-hour fart joke than Venom. Venom also is a 2-hour fart joke, but this one's a little more clever, a lot more clever and smarter. All right, this one I'm really happy to finally add to my collection. I know it's been on sale for $10 new a lot of times, and I missed those sales, or I ended up getting something else. So I did spend more in credit for it used, but it's this running theme in this video. And it's Air Force One. I love 80s and 90s action movies. They're just good, to veg out in front of. They're just fun, and this is one of Harrison Ford's best. There you go. Air Force One. This is basically what it sounds like. It's a story of the president. He plays the president on Air Force One when terrorists try and hijack it. All right, now let's get to the DVDs. Now, the reason I bought DVDs is they're documentaries. Those of you guys who've been here for a while know that I'm a documentary filmmaker, so documentaries are close to my heart. When I can find good ones that aren't History Channel documentaries or National Geographic documentaries, I'm excited. There's 3 types of documentary that I just generally don't care about collecting. History Channel ones, they're good, they're valid projects, but it's just a lot of the same, and they're usually really boring to look at. Just still pictures, artist renderings, and voiceovers. That puts me to sleep. Okay, National Geographic documentaries are mostly, not all exclusively, of course. There's some good ones. There's some really great ones, but a lot of them are just demo discs for 4K TVs when you get a 4K one, because they are absolutely beautiful to look at. But it's just not my cup of tea. And the other thing is true crime. I believe Netflix thinks that a documentary, if you look up documentary in the dictionary, it'll say true crime, because it's all they want to do is true crime documentaries, and there's better, more interesting things that can be done. So if you love those, I'm not saying any of them are bad. It's just I'm overdone with those things. When people look at me and say documentary, oh, you mean like the History Channel? No, I don't mean that at all. This first one, though, I'm happy to add to my subgenre of documentary, where it's documentaries about film. Side by Side is one of the best, and we talked about that one on this channel. And now I have This Film Is Not Yet Rated. This is an older documentary, but if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend finding it. It's probably streaming somewhere. I'm happy to have it in my physical collection. This is a documentary about sort of the shady underbelly of the ratings board, the film ratings board, and how it works. There's some hyperbolic stuff in here for sure, and that flaws the documentary, but there's a lot to learn in this documentary about the whole process of how movies are rated. And there's some great interviews with filmmakers talking about the ratings board experience that they had. So if you're interested in the underpinning of the film industry, this is a great documentary. I highly recommend it. And that's the most expensive DVD that I bought. I think it's overpriced. These next two, the final two here, are really funny because it's just weird synergy that happens. In my previous video, which was about some of the things I'm anticipating coming out on physical media in 2022, I had a conversation, or I mentioned in that video something about, I don't even remember exactly what started it now, but I mentioned something about the Star Trek, Star Wars debate and that kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure my commentary revolved around the fact that if you take the two franchises, which one is fantasy, one is science fiction, they really shouldn't be compared as often as they are. But people do it. It's a thing, The other thing that's comparable is the length of the two franchises. There's a lot. Star Trek has much more than Star Wars. Star Wars is catching up now that they're getting into streaming, but Star Trek has a long history of TV also. But I think the thought that I had, and I stand by, is that if you take an average of quality, Star Trek has more quality, good movies than Star Wars. Star Wars has more bad movies. Star Trek has plenty of bad in there too, but Star Trek also has more quality movies within its franchise. And that's scary because people can get real heated over that debate. No one did, thankfully, and that's great. But I did have a good conversation with someone who I believe is pretty hardcore Star Trek fan, talking about that whole thing, and I mentioned to them about the documentary Trekkies. Had they seen that documentary? It's a really good one. It's an older one. I don't know, that thing's probably close to 20 years old now. It was made, I think, during kind of the hype, the peak of fandom as we know it. I think, San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con have kind of taken a lot of the wind out of the sails of fandom. There used to be really great other huge events that people looked forward to across the country, but between those two things and Disney's D23, it's kind of like all people talk about. But there's MegaCon in Florida, there's DragonCon in Atlanta, that are big fandom events. But anyway, Trekkies is a documentary about Star Trek fans, and it has a lot of really cool information. It has good footage from various Star Trek conventions and interviews with people that love it and why they love it, and then some of the charitable things that a lot of the groups do, and that kind of thing. I would wonder if those kind of groups still exist, because you just don't hear about it as much now as you used to. But there used to be Star Trek clubs across the country, and they would do charitable things and all that. That was covered in the Trekkies documentary. And it's funny, we had that conversation about how cool that movie is, and bam, there it was at McKay's. I'm so happy to add this back to my collection. And this, there's some thrift store pricing right there. Someone didn't get much money for that one because it hasn't been repriced. There would be multiple stickers, but there's only one, so what do they get, like 50 cents? Anyway, older documentary, but very good, and it's funny. We were just talking about it. I wish I could call the person's name. I wanted to call them out on the show, but I can't remember their username on YouTube. But highly recommended if you're into fandom type documentaries, as I am. My first project I ever did was called Fans and Freaks: The Culture of Comics and Conventions, and that is a feature documentary, and it was kind of done before people paid attention to San Diego Comic-Con too much, and I think it's still out there to buy if you look around hard enough. And here's the really funny part: is as we talked about Trekkies, that person reminded me, Trekkies 2 kind of got more into the minutia of the Trek fandom and that kind of thing. And guess what? Bam! There it was, right there at McKay's used. This is hilarious because we just literally 2 days ago, as I'm recording this, I had just commented back to that person. The first movie I had in my collection previously, before the robbery that I've told you guys multiple times about and things were stolen. The second one I never had in my collection, so I'm happy to add those two. So yeah, DVD purchases. But sadly, that's the way most documentaries find their physical media. It's even now, even today, most, my current film, Family of Fear, I shot that baby in 4K and it's beautiful footage, and it's on a DVD. That's how it's out there. That's just the way documentaries are released. So anyway, those are my pickups for McKay's. Again, go and check out my actual trip to McKay's over on TikTok, OTS Movies, and let me know what you think. And tell me how it compares to your local used media place. As much as I love McKay's, I'm still jealous of places like Bull Moose and Book Off because they just seem to get better quality titles. It's hard for me to find that level of boutique title used. Or even new in a brick and mortar in Nashville. So that's my pickups. Let me know what you think. Let's talk about physical media in the comments. And until next we meet, pull something cool off the shelf and share it with your friends and family. Remind them why physical media is the best way to watch films and TV. I see you guys. Well, as I finish this, I'll see you guys in 2022. I have one more video coming at you on New Year's Eve, but that's already recorded. So I'll see you guys next year. Have a great New Year's Eve.